You would think fame protects you from loneliness. Doesn't. And you would think obscurity keeps you invisible. It doesn't either. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon in Manhattan, two women collided, one who had everything the world could offer and another who had nothing but a chipped coffee mug and a tired smile. The bell above the cafe door jingled. Emily Hart, a 25-year-old barista with a tendency to dream more than she should, didn't look up right away. She was focused on the swirl of steamed milk, on getting the foam to form the little heart she always drew for customers she would never see again. People came and went, strangers with busy lives. But that day was different, because the woman who walked in wasn't just any stranger. She was Claire Donovan. Yes, that Claire Donovan, the actress whose face was plastered across billboards in Times Square, whose name was whispered in magazine headlines, whose smile sold perfume bottles worth more than Emily's rent. Claire Donovan should not have been in a tiny corner coffee shop, hair damp from the rain, sunglasses clutched in her hand like a shield. She should have been anywhere but there. Yet she walked in shaking her umbrella, scanning the room like she needed somewhere to hide. Emily froze. Her first thought was, God, she's even more beautiful in person. Her second, don't stare. Don't you dare stare. Claire moved toward the counter, her steps measured, her shoulders tense. She looked like someone trying to disappear while knowing damn well she couldn't. Emily's hands trembled slightly as she set the finished latte on the pickup counter for someone else, then forced her gaze up. Hi, Claire said, her voice lower, rawer than it ever sounded in interviews. Emily blinked. She wasn't used to celebrities addressing her directly. Hi. What can I get you? Claire hesitated. Something strong. Dark. No sugar. Emily nodded, trying to ignore the rapid thud of her heart. She pulled an espresso shot, the hiss and hum of the machine filling the silence. Claire's eyes lingered on her, uncomfortably steady. Emily could feel it like heat against her skin. When she handed over the coffee, their fingers brushed. Just barely. But it was enough to jolt Emily like static. Thank you, Claire murmured. Then softer, almost like a secret. You make hearts in your lattes? Emily blinked again. She hadn't thought Claire noticed. Sometimes. Habit, I guess. Claire's lips curved, the kind of smile that could sell out theaters. Except this one wasn't polished. It was tired. Grateful. Real. It's beautiful. Emily swallowed. It's just foam. Maybe, Claire said, lifting her cup. But it feels like more. That was how it began. With rain on the windows, a famous actress hiding in plain sight, and a coffee girl who didn't know what to say. Emily assumed she would never see her again. Why would she? Claire Donovan belonged to another universe. Carpets, private jets, the kind of world Emily only brushed against when flipping through glossy magazines at the grocery store. But Claire came back. The next day. And the next. Always around the same time, always ordering something simple, always sitting in the far corner with her baseball cap pulled low. Emily watched her, puzzled. She wanted to ask why, but she didn't dare. Celebrities were like comets. You admired them from a distance until they disappeared. Except Claire didn't disappear. She lingered. And Emily started to notice things. How Claire never checked her phone while sitting there. How she traced circles on her coffee cup, lost in thought. How her eyes softened every time Emily placed the drink in front of her. One evening when the shop was nearly empty, Emily finally asked, "Why here? Why not Starbucks or, I don't know, anywhere else?" Claire looked up, caught off guard. Then she smiled, small, vulnerable. "Because here no one asks me for pictures. No one pretends to know me. Here I'm just a woman drinking coffee." Emily felt her chest tighten. She had never thought about what it meant to be seen and unseen all at once. From then on, their conversations grew longer. They talked about books, about music, about the little absurdities of New York life. Claire laughed more than Emily expected. And Emily found herself saying things she usually kept hidden. Still, beneath it all, there was tension, like walking a line that could break at any second. Because Emily knew who Claire was. And Claire knew what it meant if anyone found out she was here, talking, smiling, looking at someone like Emily with eyes that lingered too long. The world adored Claire Donovan. But the world didn't know this Claire, the one who admitted she sometimes hated her own reflection, the one who confessed she couldn't sleep without the sound of rain, the one who looked at Emily as if she mattered. And Emily didn't know what to do with that. The turning point came on a Thursday evening, when the shop was nearly closing. The city outside was restless, horns blaring, neon signs flickering. Inside it was just the two of them. Claire leaned on the counter, her hair falling loose from her cap. "Can I ask you something?" Emily wiped down a mug, nervous. "Sure. Do you ever feel," Claire paused, her gaze sharp, "like you're living someone else's life? Like you wake up and wonder how the hell you ended up here?" Emily's throat tightened. The question cut too deep. "Every day," she admitted softly. Something flickered in Claire's eyes, relief maybe. Or recognition. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I don't think I've met anyone else who gets that." For a heartbeat, the space between them felt fragile, electric. Emily inhaled sharply, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. Claire's hand hovered, as if she wanted to reach out but wasn't sure if she should. "Emily," she whispered, tasting her name like it was forbidden. Emily's pulse raced. She had no idea how her name had slipped into Claire Donovan's mouth, but hearing it there felt dangerous, intimate. Before either of them could say more, the door jingled. Another customer. The spell broke. Claire straightened, mask slipping back into place. But Emily knew then. This wasn't just small talk anymore. This was something else. Something bigger. Something she couldn't ignore. The customer who walked in was just a man in a suit, damp from the rain, scrolling through his phone without lifting his head. He ordered quickly and sat by the window, tapping his screen as if the world outside didn't exist. But to Emily, his presence felt like an intrusion, like someone had stormed into a secret meeting she didn't realize she was having. Claire retreated into silence, stirring her coffee even though she hadn't added sugar. Emily felt the distance like a door slamming shut. Whatever had almost happened, whatever had flickered between them, it was gone, tucked back behind Claire's carefully built walls. That night, Emily lay awake in her tiny apartment above a laundromat, listening to the endless churn of machines downstairs. She thought about the look in Claire's eyes when she said her name. She thought about the way her voice had dropped, the hesitation, the vulnerability. She thought about how close Claire's hand had come to hers. And for the first time in years, Emily didn't dream about escaping her life. She dreamed about staying exactly where she was as long as Claire kept walking into that cafe. The next week, Claire came every day. Sometimes she was quiet, scribbling in a notebook Emily never dared to peek at. Sometimes she was chatty, asking Emily about her favorite movies or the worst customer she had ever dealt with. One evening, as they wiped down tables together, Claire had insisted on helping after the rush. Emily asked, "Don't you have, I don't know, better places to be?" Claire smirked, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Better? Maybe. Safer. Definitely. But I like it here." Emily arched a brow. "You like stale muffins and burnt espresso beans?" Claire laughed, the sound rich and unguarded. "I like the company." The words sank into Emily's chest, warm and heavy. She turned quickly, pretending to rearrange the cups so Claire wouldn't see her blush. By the third week, people began to notice. Not the customers, most of them were too wrapped up in their own lives to care, but the staff. Marcy, the manager, raised her brows every time Claire walked in. Jonah, another barista, whispered once, "Do you know who that is?" Emily shrugged like she didn't, though of course she did. Still, Claire kept coming. And Emily kept pretending it was normal. But one late afternoon, the normal cracked. The cafe was nearly empty when two teenage girls entered, giggling, clutching their phones. They froze the moment they saw Claire, whispering frantically to each other. Emily's stomach dropped. She knew what was coming before it happened. "Excuse me," one of them said, voice trembling with excitement. Are you Claire Donovan?" Claire's jaw tightened. She gave a polite smile. "I'm sorry, I think you're mistaken." The girls squealed anyway, snapping pictures before Emily could stop them. Claire's face hardened, and for the first time since Emily had met her, she looked furious, not glamorous, not graceful, but raw, cornered. "Hey," Emily said sharply, stepping forward. "She said you're mistaken. Put the phones away." The girls blinked, startled. "But out," Emily cut in, her voice shaking but firm. "Now." They huffed, muttering about how rude the service was, but they left, phones still clutched in their hands. When the door slammed shut, Emily turned back. Claire was gripping the edge of the counter so tightly her knuckles had gone white. I'm sorry, Emily whispered. Claire shook her head. Not your fault. Her eyes glistened, and Emily felt a pang of something deeper than sympathy. She wanted to reach across the counter, to close the distance, to tell Claire she wasn't just a face on a screen. She was human. She was hurting. Instead, she said softly, "You're safe here." Claire looked at her, then really looked as if searching for proof. And for the first time, Emily thought maybe she found it. A few nights later, Claire didn't leave at closing. The rain was pouring too heavily outside, the streets slick and shining under the neon signs. Emily stacked chairs while Claire lingered at the counter, her untouched coffee growing cold. "You don't have to wait," Emily said gently. "I can lock up. You probably have a driver or no driver," Claire cut in. Her voice was low, tired. "No entourage. Just me." Emily hesitated. "Do you want me to call you a cab?" Claire shook her head. "I don't want to go back yet." Something about the way she said it made Emily stop. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "What's so bad about going back?" Claire let out a laugh, but it was hollow. "Back means cameras. Back means interviews where I lie about who I am. Back means pretending I'm fine when I'm not." Emily's chest ached. "So here means what?" Claire's gaze lifted, steady and unflinching. "Here means I can breathe." The words hung between them, heavy and fragile. Emily swallowed hard, her pulse racing. She didn't know how to respond, didn't know if she should step closer or stay where she was. But then Claire stood slowly and closed the distance herself. She was inches away, rain-damp hair framing her face, her eyes searching Emily's like she was waiting for permission. "Tell me to stop," Claire whispered. Emily couldn't. She didn't want to. So when Claire leaned in, their lips brushed, tentative, trembling, electric. Emily's hands trembled as she reached up, barely touching Claire's sleeve, afraid the moment would vanish if she held on too tightly. It was soft, brief, but it changed everything. When they pulled apart, Claire exhaled like she had been holding her breath for years. "I shouldn't," she murmured. "I can't." Emily's heart twisted. "Then don't." Claire blinked, startled. Emily's voice was steady now, though her insides shook. "Don't kiss me if it's just another secret you'll bury. Don't make me a hiding place you run to when you're tired of the world. I can't be that for you." Claire's expression crumbled, torn between guilt and longing. "Emily." But before she could say more, the cafe lights flickered, the old wiring threatening to cut out. The spell broke. Claire stepped back, slipping on her sunglasses even though it was night. And just like that, she was gone, leaving Emily standing in the empty shop with the taste of a kiss and the echo of everything unsaid. Days passed. Claire didn't return. Emily told herself she shouldn't care. She was just a barista. Claire Donovan had an empire to maintain. A kiss meant nothing in the face of that. But every time the bell jingled, Emily's heart leapt and sank when it wasn't her. She started drawing hearts and lattes again, not for customers but for herself, as if she could keep the memory alive in foam. One night, while locking up, she found a folded napkin under the counter. Her name was written across it in neat handwriting. Inside it read, "I'm sorry. I wanted to stay. I'll explain if you let me." Emily stared at the words until they blurred. And she knew, this wasn't over. The explanation came sooner than she expected. A week later, Claire appeared again, hood pulled low, hands shoved in her pockets. She looked exhausted, shadows under her eyes, lips pressed thin. Emily froze mid-shift, heart hammering. "You're back." Claire nodded. "Can we talk?" They slipped into the back room, away from curious eyes. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence until Claire finally spoke. "I didn't mean to disappear," she said quietly. "But the night when we kissed, someone saw us." Emily's breath caught. "What?" Claire nodded, her jaw tight. "A photographer. I don't know how, but the picture's out there. My manager's been panicking ever since. They want me to deny everything. Say it was nothing." Emily's stomach twisted. "And was it nothing?" Claire's eyes locked on hers. No, the word rang in the small room, heavy with truth. Emily wanted to believe her. She wanted to throw herself into the promise in that single syllable. But fear held her back. "What happens now?" Emily whispered. Claire hesitated. If the photo leaks, everything changes. My career, my reputation. You. Emily swallowed hard. I didn't ask for this. I know, Claire said, her voice breaking. But I can't stop thinking about you. I don't want to stop. Her hand hovered, trembling, as if she wanted to reach for Emily but didn't dare. I'm scared, she admitted. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. Emily's heart cracked open. She didn't know if she could handle the storm that would come, but she knew she couldn't walk away either. So she stepped forward, closing the distance this time. Then don't run again. Claire's breath hitched, and when their lips met once more, it wasn't tentative. It was desperate. Certain. This time Emily held on tight. That night, they didn't leave the cafe until dawn. They sat together in the dark, sharing secrets like children sharing candy. Claire spoke of the loneliness of hotel rooms, the pressure of being perfect, the constant fear of being discovered. Emily spoke of her father who left when she was 12, of dreams abandoned in the face of bills and reality, of the ache of always being ordinary. Somehow in the middle of it all they laughed. They teased each other. They fell into a rhythm that felt startlingly natural, like they had been waiting years for it. When the first rays of sunlight spilled through the windows, Claire rested her head on Emily's shoulder. You make me feel human, she whispered. Emily kissed her hair softly. You make me feel seen. And for the first time in a long time, both of them felt like maybe just maybe they weren't alone anymore. The photo hit the internet on a Monday morning. Emily didn't see it right away. She was halfway through her shift, grinding beans, when her phone buzzed nonstop in her apron pocket. By the time she checked, her notifications were exploding. Friends she hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly messaging her. Some with question marks, others with screenshots. It was a grainy image, probably taken from across the street at night. But there was no mistaking it. Claire Donovan, the Hollywood star, leaning across the cafe counter. Her face partially hidden, her cap pulled low. And Emily wide-eyed, lips barely inches away from Claire's. The caption was simple. Claire Donovan's mystery girl. Emily's blood went cold. Her heart pounded as she scrolled through the thread. Speculations. Comments. Some were curious, others cruel. Words like lesbian in closet and career suicide flashed across her screen. People dissected her face, her clothes, her job, as if she were some specimen in a lab. Jonah leaned over her shoulder, eyes widening. Holy shit, Emily, that's you. She shoved her phone back into her pocket, hands trembling. Don't. But it was too late. Marcy, the manager, had seen it too. She pulled Emily aside, her expression tight. I don't know what's going on between you and Claire Donovan, but this cafe isn't the place for that kind of attention. Paparazzi could show up any second. Do you understand what that means for my business? Emily's throat closed. I didn't ask for this. Marcy crossed her arms. Doesn't matter. Figure it out, Emily. Before it ruins everything. That night, Emily's street was swarming. Vans with satellite dishes, cameras flashing in the dark, strangers yelling her name. She had to push through the crowd just to reach her front door. Questions flew at her like knives. Are you Claire's girlfriend? Are you using her for fame? Did she confirm your relationship? Emily didn't answer. She slammed the door behind her, slid down against it, and covered her face with her hands. Her apartment felt smaller than ever, suffocating under the weight of the world outside. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Claire. I'm outside. Can I come up? Emily hesitated, staring at the message. Then she peered out the window. Sure enough, a black car was parked discreetly across the street. Claire's driver, maybe. But Claire herself was standing on the sidewalk, hood pulled up, eyes scanning the crowd. Emily's chest ached. She typed back. It's chaos here. You shouldn't. Her phone lit up with a call. Emily answered on the second ring. I don't care, Claire said, her voice firm. I'm coming up. 5 minutes later, Claire was in her apartment, dripping rainwater onto the worn-out carpet. She pulled her hood back, revealing tired eyes, but her presence filled the tiny space like sunlight breaking through clouds. Emily stood frozen. You shouldn't be here. They're outside. They'll see you. They've already seen me, Claire said softly. They've seen us. Emily's hand shook. And now what? I didn't ask for this, Claire. I didn't sign up to have my face plastered all over the internet. Claire stepped closer, her expression pained. I know. And I'm sorry. I should have been more careful. Emily laughed bitterly. Careful? You're famous. There's no such thing as careful for someone like you. For a moment, silence. Then Claire whispered, Do you regret it? The kiss. Emily froze. The memory of that night burned in her mind, the way Claire had looked at her, the way her lips had felt. She couldn't regret it. Not even now. But fear wrapped around her chest like chains. I don't regret you, she said finally. I regret the world watching. Claire's eyes glistened. She reached out, gently brushing her fingers against Emily's. Then let them watch. Let them say whatever they want. We know the truth. Emily pulled back, heart aching. You don't understand. You can survive this. You're Claire Donovan. You'll still get roles, still be adored. But me? I'm nobody. They'll tear me apart. They already are. Claire flinched like Emily had slapped her. So what are you saying? That we stop? That we pretend none of this happened? Emily's voice cracked. Maybe that's the only way to save you. Claire's jaw tightened. I don't need saving. I need you. The words sliced through the air, raw and desperate. Emily's breath caught. But before she could respond, a camera flash exploded through the window. Both of them turned, startled. Someone was outside, perched across the street with a telephoto lens. Claire cursed under her breath. We can't stay here. Pack a bag. Emily blinked. What? We're leaving, Claire said firmly. Now. They ended up 2 hours north, in a rented cabin by a lake. Claire had arranged it quietly through a friend, and the isolation was suffocating yet safe. The cabin smelled of pine and smoke, its wooden walls creaking in the wind. For the first time in days, the noise of the world fell silent. Emily sat by the fire, staring into the flames. Claire knelt beside her, a blanket draped around both their shoulders. I'm sorry, Claire whispered again. I didn't want your life to become collateral damage. I thought I could keep you safe in that little cafe. I was wrong. Emily's throat tightened. Why me, Claire? Out of all the people in your world, why me? Claire's hand found hers, warm and steady. Because you never wanted anything from me. Not fame, not attention. Just me. No one's looked at me like that in years. Emily blinked back, tears. And what happens now? We can't hide in a cabin forever. Claire exhaled, her shoulders slumping. I don't know. But I know I don't want to go back to pretending. Not anymore. The fire crackled between them, filling the silence. Slowly, Emily leaned into her, resting her head against Claire's chest. For the first time since the storm began, she allowed herself to believe maybe love could survive this. But survival came at a cost. By the end of the week, the tabloids had branded Emily the coffee girl. Headlines screamed about Claire's sexuality, her career, her scandal. Paparazzi camped outside the cafe. Marcy sent a sharp text. Don't bother coming back. It's bad for business. Emily stared at the message, numb. Her job, her one source of stability, was gone. Claire noticed her silence. What is it? Emily handed her the phone. Claire read the message, her face darkening. This is my fault. Emily shook her head, though her voice wavered. It's not about fault. It's about reality. My life doesn't fit into yours, Claire. I can't keep up. Claire cupped her face, forcing her to meet her eyes. Don't say that. You think I care about red carpets and magazine covers? I care about you. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Then prove it. Not to Mito the world. Tell them the truth. The words hung in the air, dangerous and impossible. Claire's breath hitched. If I do that, I could lose everything. Emily whispered. And if you don't, you'll lose me. The press conference was scheduled for Friday. Claire stood at the podium, cameras flashing like gunfire. Emily watched from the shadows backstage, heart pounding. She wanted to run, to disappear, but she forced herself to stay. Claire adjusted the microphone, her hands steady even as her eyes betrayed the storm inside. There's been a lot of speculation about a photo that surfaced last week, she began. Her voice carried through the room, strong yet vulnerable. Yes, it's real. Yes, that woman is someone I care about deeply. The crowd erupted, questions shouted, lights blinding. Claire raised a hand, silencing them. I've spent my whole career hiding parts of myself because I was afraid of what the world would think. But I'm tired of living a lie. I won't deny who I am anymore. And I won't deny her. Her gaze flicked toward Emily, softening. Her name is Emily Hart. She's not a mystery girl. She's the reason I can breathe again. Emily's breath caught. Tears stung her eyes as the room exploded once more. Chaos swallowing the moment. But none of it mattered. Because for the first time Claire had chosen truth. And she had chosen her. That night, back at the cabin, Emily confronted her with trembling hands. Do you realize what you've done? Claire smiled faintly, exhaustion etched into her face. Yeah, I told the truth. Emily shook her head. They're going to crucify you. Hollywood doesn't forgive easily. Claire stepped forward, pressing her forehead to Emily's. Let them try. I'd rather lose everything than lose you. Emily broke then, tears spilling freely as she wrapped her arms around Claire. The world outside might be merciless, but in that moment it didn't matter. Because love had already rewritten the script. The days that followed were brutal. Commentators debated Claire's career. Some fans cheered, others turned their backs. Offers were pulled, contracts questioned. Claire's team begged her to retract, to spin the story, to claim it was a phase. But she refused. Emily watched her fight, watched her stand firm in interviews, watched her defend not just their relationship, but her right to exist openly. And for the first time, Emily felt something stronger than fear. She felt pride. One night, as they lay tangled together under the thin cabin sheets, Emily whispered, "You could have chosen an easier path." Claire kissed her softly. "I didn't want easier. I wanted real." Emily smiled through tears, pressing her face against Claire's neck. "Then we'll make real work." Somehow, Claire's arms tightened around her. Together. And as the lake shimmered outside their window, dawn breaking once more, Emily believed her. The storm did not pass overnight. Claire's confession at the press conference had ignited a fire. News anchors dissected every word. Tabloids printed lurid headlines, and social media buzzed with hashtags. Some praised her bravery, others condemned her. Offers from certain studios evaporated like mist, while others, quietly progressive, cautiously bold, began to reach out. Emily watched it all from the sidelines, caught between awe and guilt. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had ruined Claire's career, that every cruel headline was her fault. But every time she tried to say it aloud, Claire silenced her with a look that was equal parts steel and tenderness. "You didn't ruin me," Claire said one evening as they cooked dinner in the small cabin kitchen. She was chopping onions badly, her knife skills disastrous, and Emily laughed despite herself. "You lost jobs, Claire." Claire shrugged. "Then I'll find new ones. Or I won't. Either way, I won't lose myself. That's worth more than any role." Emily set down the spoon she was stirring with, her eyes burning. "You're braver than me." Claire shook her head, stepping closer. "No. I'm only brave because you gave me something worth risking everything for." Their lips met in the middle of the messy kitchen, onions forgotten, the stove still ticking softly. For once, Emily didn't argue. She let herself believe. By winter, the frenzy began to cool. Another scandal stole the headlines. Another celebrity became the target of whispers. The world moved on faster than Emily ever thought possible. The cafe remained closed to her, but Emily found work at a small independent bookstore. It wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet, and the smell of paper and ink calmed her. Claire would stop by in a beanie and oversized coat, blending in just enough to browse poetry with her. They built rituals out of simplicity: late-night walks, shared coffee at dawn, laughter over cheap takeout. For the first time, Emily stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. Claire's career shifted too. Independent directors began to approach her with projects that didn't care about the gossip, only about talent. She wasn't booked on every blockbuster anymore. But the roles she accepted mattered. Roles that let her breathe, that let her be seen beyond the red carpet smile. And through it all, she refused to hide Emily. At premieres, she held her hand. At interviews, she spoke her name. Slowly, the narrative changed. What began as scandal became a love story the public couldn't quite look away from. But the true test came one spring afternoon. Claire had been invited to speak at a charity gala in Los Angeles, a room filled with industry giants and journalists. Emily flew out with her, nerves tight as she zipped up her simple black dress. She wasn't made for red carpets, for flashing bulbs and judging eyes. But Claire squeezed her hand before they stepped onto the carpet, whispering, "You're the only person here who matters to me." And somehow that was enough. The night glittered with lights and speeches, champagne glasses clinking in the background. When Claire took the stage, Emily watched from a small table near the back, her heart pounding with pride. Claire spoke not of movies, not of fame, but of truth. "For years I thought love had to be hidden," she said into the microphone, her voice steady. "I thought it was something dangerous, something that would cost me everything. And maybe it has cost me, but what it's given me is immeasurable. Love isn't a liability. It's the only thing that makes all of this worth it." The room erupted in applause. Emily's eyes blurred with tears. And when Claire stepped down, she came straight to her, ignoring the cameras and the curious stares, pulling her into an embrace that left no doubt. The world could watch. Emily didn't care anymore. Life didn't transform into a fairy tale. Bills still came. Paparazzi still lurked. Doubt still surfaced in quiet moments when Emily lay awake, wondering if she was enough. But love grew in the cracks, steady and stubborn. It grew in burned dinners and rainy mornings, in whispered promises and unguarded laughter. It grew in ways neither of them expected, messy, imperfect, but real. One summer evening back at the cabin by the lake, Claire sat on the porch with Emily, their legs tangled as they watched the sunset bleed across the water. "I used to think happiness was applause," Claire murmured, resting her head on Emily's shoulder. "Crowds cheering, cameras flashing. But it's this. Just this." Emily kissed her temple, heart swelling. "And here I thought happiness was good coffee." Claire laughed, soft and genuine. "You're never going to let me forget that latte heart, are you?" Emily smirked. "Never." The silence that followed was warm, filled with the sound of crickets and the gentle lapping of the lake. "Emily," Claire said at last, her voice tentative, "what if we stayed? Here, I mean, bought the cabin, made it ours?" Emily blinked, startled. "You'd give up the city?" "I'd give up a lot more than that," Claire admitted. "But I'm not talking about giving up. I'm talking about building something. With you." Emily's breath caught. She turned, searching Claire's face. "Are you sure?" Claire's eyes softened. "I've never been more sure of anything." And in that moment, Emily realized something. She had spent her whole life believing she was ordinary, invisible, forgettable. But to Claire Donovan, the woman the world couldn't stop watching, she was everything. Ordinary had never felt so extraordinary. Months later, the cabin was theirs. It wasn't perfect. The roof leaked in heavy storms, the plumbing rattled, and the Wi-Fi barely worked. But it was theirs. Emily painted the walls soft cream, Claire filled the shelves with books and scripts, and together they turned the old place into a home. On weekends, friends visited Jonah with his sarcastic humor, Marcy with an awkward apology. Even some of Claire's co-stars dropped by, curious to see the infamous retreat. But most days it was just the two of them, living a life quieter and deeper than either had imagined. Sometimes Emily would wake to find Claire already writing by the fire, her hair messy, her glasses slipping down her nose. Sometimes, Claire would come home to find Emily asleep on the porch swing, sunlight tangled in her hair. And every time their eyes met, it still felt like that first day, the day rain dripped on the cafe windows and a famous actress walked into an ordinary girl's life. Years later, when journalists asked Claire what her greatest role had been, she always smiled, glanced at Emily in the crowd and said, "Loving her." Emily, for her part, never grew used to the spotlight, never cared for it. She never stopped working with books, never stopped making coffee in the mornings, always drawing a little heart in the foam just for Claire. And Claire never stopped looking at her like she was the only person in the room. The world might have called it a scandal once. But in the end, it was only ever a love story. Two women. One ordinary, one extraordinary. And a truth that refused to stay hidden. A truth that blossomed into forever. The cafe bell had rung years ago, starting it all. And though they didn't know it then, it was the sound of two lives colliding, messy, impossible, beautiful. Now, as the lake shimmered under the evening sun, Emily took Claire's hand and held it tight. Because after everything, after the fear and the fire, after the storm and the silence, they had found what they were searching for. Not applause. Not perfection. Just each other. And that was enough. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.